Yeah, we're actually scheduled for our next one. I don't know if you've seen it, but we're scheduled with another guest to do Bright for our next one, that orc movie on Netflix.
We are?
Yeah, with Will Smith.
Who picked that?
The idea of it kind of, remember, I don't, you guys are too young for this, but do you remember when Enemy Mine was a television show?
Enemy Mine was a television show?
Okay, so Enemy Mine was
I'm sorry for being 27. This is ridiculous. I mean, I didn't even know, like, is this back when they were giving everything a TV show?
Probably. Let me look it up real quick. So that's what this is. Bright reminds me of. It's like the same idea, except for it's an orc instead of an alien. But yeah, hold on, because now I'm thinking, did I just imagine that? Holy shit! I think I just totally made that up in my head. No, I swear. I swear.
So we're witnessing Patience Mandela effect right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh! Seriously, I'm losing it.
And welcome to Netflix and Kill, another
Christmas edition, I guess.
Yes, a very festive edition. Travis, you know my Christmas edition, like every year, I always like to watch a Chucky film.
Of course, yes.
You know this about me. We're friends till the end, after all.
Whether I like it or not.
And who's talking about a weirdly timed Christmas film? Well, it's me, Nick, the Mark with a Mic, and my fellow unapologist,
Travis,
the god of the pod himself.
Yeah.
And of course, our special guest,
Patience! Woo!
Patience. It has been a while. I'm so glad we got to get to you before the Christmas season was done. Super. Always great time talking to you. And of course, we are talking about the film today, The Cult of Chucky.
I was 6. My babysitter was murdered.
And they never caught him?
Justice was done.
Wanna play?
Mika, the murders were real.
Chucky never was.
That's right. He was a fantasy. A delusion.
Are you feeling better now?
I don't blame you for being afraid. I was very ill.
Chucky told me. He's coming for you.
It's important that we all explore it together as a group. I think I have something that will help. Whoa.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
First, he'll kill each and every one of you in the most horrible ways you can imagine. And then he'll kill me too.
Come to mommy.
Oh, come.
Are you afraid of the truth?
Terrified. You should be too.
Night night. And they call me sick?
Wait a minute, there's 2 of them?
He'll kill us all!
A true classic never goes out of style.
Yes, I felt like it would bring us some warm feelings in this cold, drafty Christmas.
Yeah, so believe it or not, this is the 6th film in the Chucky franchise.
Is it only the 6th? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I feel like there's actually should be more.
No, there is Child's Play, Child's Play 2, Child's Play 3, Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky,
Ew.
Curse of Chucky, and then actually this is the 7th film.
Aha!
I misspoke.
Vindication.
I misspoke. No, this is the 7th film. This is The Cult of Chucky. So, for those of you who are tuning into Netflix and Kill for the first time, well, hi guys. Thanks for joining us. But also we have had Patience on before. Patience has been, I don't know, generously a little hit and miss with us as far as the picks for the Netflix and Kills. They're always fun to talk about.
She likes to kill newlyweds.
But sometimes they're not really Travis and I's cup of tea, shall we say.
I feel like I'm like 50-50.
Yeah, well, So it's always a question, and I want to answer this one right up front of whether or not Cult of Chucky is one of the films that might have been hit and or miss. Why? Well, I don't know about you, Travis, but this one's a winner.
Yeah.
We got one. We got a winner.
I mean, to be fair with you, Nick, I'm not sure that's actually a compliment to that, because you love terrible movies.
Oh, well, they gotta be the right kind of terrible. But this one is, I think Cult of Chucky has a lot of interesting things going on for it, especially this late in a franchise game. We'll talk about it in a minute, but it is refreshing, actually. Like, it's actually like, oh, wow, this is an interesting take on a Chucky film. And,
didn't expect that, did you?
yeah, I don't know, Patience, this is your first time watching it, correct?
Yeah, I hadn't seen it before, and so I just kind of picked it at random because I knew that some of my colleagues at oneofus.net were like, hey, you should check it out. It's actually not that bad. So I was like, okay, it's new. It's something cool on Netflix to watch that I've been meaning to get to. And I absolutely loved it. And I'm telling everybody today, I was like, okay, hear me out. I know I would never say this, but I actually liked a Chucky film. And it was just, I felt like it was just well written. And I mean, other than there's some like weird stuff that we'll talk about later that I probably didn't like so much, but otherwise I thought it was just like a fun movie.
You know what this probably actually means? She's possessed by Chucky.
Yeah, she's become possessed. Give unto me the power, own Chuck today. No, I think I mixed up the chant from Temple of Doom in there.
That part.
I'll tell you what, for those of you who don't know the Child's Play franchise, the first movie Child's Play was back in the 80s, in the good old 80s, where a lot of slasher movies were, doing their thing back then. It was all about the gimmick. What could your slasher do?
What could you put on the front of that VHS?
Yeah, like I remember one that was just, what was it, a gingerbread man called Ginger Dead Man. I think there was a snowman serial killer at one point.
Yes, Jack Frost. I think it was.
Frost?
Yep. Yes, that is exactly what I mean. Where a woman got sexually violated by a nose carrot. If I'm remembering
something like that.
If I'm remembering right.
Yeah, movies were so good back then.
I know,
those days.
I kind of miss the 80s of just like we have a general premise, go.
Got a general premise, got a theme, kick it.
But yeah, the main idea is Charles Ray is a serial killer that gets killed one night and gets possessed or possesses a doll via voodoo so that he can be brought back to life in someone else's body. And this has basically been the premise since the first film. And the sequels have basically taken this approach of him being resurrected again, telling someone that he's alive, and then the normal rule is that the first person he tells that he's alive, he has to possess their body. Is usually rules. There's a lot of arbitrary rules to voodoo, apparently. So, yeah, this film, when it starts up, I'm kind of like, okay, I've watched Chucky films before, so I kind of know where this one how these ones start. This one starts in such an interesting way. We start off with Andy from the first film, the main protagonist from the first film, the kid that Chucky first tells he's still alive, going on a date, talking about like, oh, you must have Googled me, huh? Yeah, and all those people that died around me, like my babysitter, my teacher, my other
social worker, 37 others.
Yeah. And of course the date naturally goes like, yeah, that's a lot to process. I think I'm gonna leave. And I think he mentions the fact that he has a few guns, but we get to see his cabin in the woods.
Because for some reason, this kid who is like tormented by an evil doll lives in a cabin in the woods.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, like, when, I guess, I finally watched the previous film, because I had not watched the previous film of the Chucky franchise until today. I actually watched that one afterwards, because I'm like, I feel like I missed stuff from the previous film. And, yeah, with how that film ends, it's like, oh, he looks like he's a little bit scared of Chucky coming after him and coming to get him. Yeah. And he's got a whole bunch of guns with him, which is weird because I'm like, I've seen a Chucky movie before. Guns aren't the most effective thing against him. Like, if he had a flamethrower, that would be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would have bought it, like, a flamethrower might be pretty effective. But we also see him to go to a safe and open up this safe. And I gotta tell you, I was not expecting the head of Chucky to be in the safe.
That's pretty fucked up.
Like, and it blinks, and it's like it's got nails and stuff in it. It's obviously been tortured over the course of a period of time, and the apparently from the previous film had a Stinger like ending where he goes after Andy. And he gets shot with a shotgun because Andy was like, I always knew you'd come for me. And that's how the previous film ends. And so that's why this one starts off with his head in the safe. He's like, aha, you always come back. If you get killed, you always get resurrected. So I'm going to just keep you alive in this safe.
Which is really fucked up. Like, yeah, he's a murderous torture doll, but still.
Well, on a lot of levels it makes sense because it's been shown in previous movies that no matter how many times they kill Chucky, he always manages to come back and get resurrected. So Andy's like, I'm going to break the cycle and make sure that you just stay alive but are in this safe where you can't hurt anybody.
No, don't get me wrong. It makes sense. Just doesn't stop it from being creepy.
Also, if all this shit happened to you when you were a kid, wouldn't you be afraid that after a long enough period of time, you would just think, maybe I imagined all that? Like, maybe it's a constant reminder for him that he didn't imagine it.
Oh, yeah.
And
definitely.
that he's like, yeah. I really liked how it started off with him smoking a blunt, too, and then Chucky's just like, hey, can I get a hit off of that? And he kind of shares it with him, and I'm like, wow. At first I was like, wow, have they been like together long enough to where like
Stockholm syndrome sets in?
Where it's like, yeah, they're the only ones anyone can talk to, so they kind of have formed a small bond. But then Chucky tries to bite his hand off, and I'm like, oh, damn it, no. But yeah, and then he brings out the blowtorch because he's like, well, I got nothing else to do on a Friday night, so rather than they get laid, I guess I'll torture the severed head of my doll tormentor.
That probably gets them off.
That is a great opening. I'm not gonna lie. It's a fan-fucking-tastic way to open a Chucky film of like, damn, this is not how usually these go. It's like super interesting and fascinating on a lot of levels. Patience, what did you feel about the opening?
It hooked me right from the very beginning where he's on this date and she's just like, yeah, so why do you have guns? They're like arguing over the Second Amendment and he's like, you Googled me, didn't you? And she's just like, yeah. And then, I mean, that whole part, and then him breaking out Chucky from the safe and then just like chilling. And he's like, well, I got nothing better to do, so I guess I'm going to torture you. I think it was just like a classic case of, can't live with them, can't blowtorch him to death. But, yeah, I think it's all about like Andy. It is like a weird sort of like relationship between the two of them that they set out right from the very beginning that I thought went into a really cool way later on, where the original Chucky kind of actually isn't really an important part, I guess you could say, of the movie.
Surprisingly not, because later later we find Nika, who is the previous film's protagonist. I found out as I watched the previous film. And she is a paraplegic that is being sent to a minimum security mental hospital from a more heavily secured facility because she has been accused of murdering her family, but after Chucky murdered her family in the last movie. And she got blamed for it, even though I just watched the what's it called, The Curse of Chucky, and I go like, okay, what? How did she, this paraplegic girl who can't get anywhere without this wheelchair, murder 5 people in a house in random succession? That doesn't make any sense.
Would be challenging.
Like, don't get me wrong, they wouldn't be convinced a doll did it, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be too hard to convince the jury that someone else did it. Oh yeah, I jumped up out of my wheelchair and stabbed this person in the eye, even though that should be physically impossible. But yeah, she is, dealing with stuff in this mental hospital, and they get sent a Chucky doll, and you're like, oh shit. When is the, like you're trying to figure out, like, oh, okay, well, maybe the thing in the beginning is either a flashback or a flash forward in the story, and that this Chucky doll is the original Chucky or is somehow going to get possessed by it. And then later you'll see that, like, actually 2 Chucky dolls got sent, because one, the therapist gets himself to help her with therapy, which has got to, like, you've got to be the worst therapist in the world, man.
Facing your fears is one thing. That thing's creepy to anybody, okay?
Well, then
seriously, though, I mean, that guy's the worst therapist in the world. That we do find out later that he really is the worst therapist in the world. But who does that to somebody? That's, like, traumatizing.
Well, the guy with multiple personalities, multiple Malcolm, is the only one to go, like, he gotta creep up in his chair and go, the fuck is that thing?
Which is a normal reaction.
Yeah. And oh, excuse me. Yeah, that's a weird thing for the therapist to do, and it kind of backfires on him because one of the patients who has murdered her child decides to adopt Chucky as her child, which is, you know, I'm like, oh well, that can't be very healthy. I don't think. I'm not a healthcare professional, but I don't think this worked out the way you thought it was gonna.
Yeah, no.
And then of course Jennifer Tilly shows back up as Tiffany, who is Chucky's girlfriend from Bride of Chucky. And what I love later in this film is that even she, in a phone call at one point, is just like, "Hi, it's Tiffany, or is it Jennifer? I can't. Who can keep track?" Because in the previous film, Seed of Chucky, they actually the more the Chucky franchise went on, the more meta they got. And they actually hunted down Jennifer Tilly and really where she played herself in the Seed of Chucky as they were trying to possess her body. It's like, oh man, she looks just like me.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, and so it's like, I loved how it was a nod where even like the Chucky film is like, yeah, we don't know if it's supposed to be Tiffany or Jennifer or not anymore. So she brings
I was just going to say, Anika even asks that when she meets her. She's like, did everyone ever tell you that you look like Jennifer Tilly?
Yeah.
She's like,
I get that all the time. Yeah, and then she brings a Chucky doll. This is where, like, oh, I'm sorry, your niece is dead. Which is, her niece is also from the previous film. And it's, it's a real downer because, like, all the protagonists from the previous film, if you cared, I mean, I don't know how many people saw Curse of Chucky, but none of them had a very a good ending. So yeah, murders start to happen, and of course, Nika immediately suspects the Chucky doll.
Well, we're forgetting the first part where it's like she decides to commit suicide.
Well, that's that is an interesting part there because when we first see Chucky, it's one of those great moments where Chucky first shows up. He's walking down the hallway, and then one of the mental health, what do you call them, patients sees them, and she's like, "Oh, well, you're definitely not real. I have schizophrenia." He's like, No, I'm a child's toy from the 80s, going around killing people. Yeah, sure you are. Oh, fuck you. I'm gonna come back and kill you. And he goes to find her, and to find Nika's already trying to take matters into her own hands. And I really like, on one hand, I wish we had not seen Chucky beforehand to, like, keep the question up. Because I really like when she wakes up and then the puddle of blood says, not so fast.
Yeah.
That is really creepy. I really like that moment of, like, no, you can't even kill yourself to escape me, which is a very serious, actually really, psychological thriller level of, like, that'd be something Hannibal Lecter would draw in some blood if you tried to kill yourself before he ate you. Mm-hmm. Like, that's some good shit right there.
Don't spoil the meat.
Yeah. I do like that the the hospital is staffed by the most judgy of staff members here.
It's also staffed by like 3 people.
Yeah, there's only like 2-3 people working there at any given time.
It's like, wow, medium security is really unsecure.
Oh yeah. Because her what was it, her caretaker, I forget what his name was, but he was like, yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan, I'm just doing my job. And then we get another nurse later who is really not doing her job of suicide watch because of her own judgmental, like, I would never hurt kids or something. Like, man, you guys, for people who are working in mental health, you don't have a lot of sympathy for the mentally ill.
No.
But he gave them gum, though.
Yes. And the other one gives someone a cigarette.
Juicy fruit and cigarettes. That's their compassion right there.
Yep.
I did like the juicy fruit reference where Malcolm gets the juicy fruit and he's like, juicy fruit. Because it made me think of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
There's actually a lot of references apparently for that movie.
Because Brad Dourif, the voice of Chucky, was in fucking One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yes.
And I was like, oh shit! All these years later, and he finally ended up back in a mental asylum. Amazing. So, I do like the fact that anytime you set a horror sequel into a mental hospital, there's always the faux twist of like, oh, what if our protagonist is crazy? And that's what we're all trained to think. Mm-hmm. And in this one, it's actually like, no. They never really try to sell that very hard. Every once in a while, they'll try and go like...
It's kind of the beginning. It's a little bit, but I kind of like those scenes, though.
Yeah, but later it's revealed that like, no, we're actually doing something completely different in the franchise. And they actually use the mental health asylum to be more of like a central location. Like, oh, this is a Chucky film that only takes place in like one location, kind of like in the previous film we're parsing down. Plus, it's a great location because Chucky can reveal himself multiple times and not have his victims not be believed very easily.
Right. Like, oh my god, I saw a walking, talking doll. Yeah, but honey, you're crazy.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, from there it proceeds like what you think a normal Chucky film will be like, but then it becomes readily apparent that like, oh wait a minute, there's something different about this Chucky film. They've kind of upped the stakes in this one a little bit. They've actually expanded the world and the mythology of this one in the sequel. It took 7 films, but we've finally gotten the aliens of the Chucky franchise for lack of a better comparison.
That's a pretty good description, I guess.
So yeah, at this point, by the end of this film, I'm kind of like, oh shit, the stakes are actually kind of high. Like there's an escalation going on here that is pretty terrifying. So yeah, and as far as the regular slasher film that goes on, it's actually kind of with the things that they change up. It's hard because I don't want to spoil it, but it's really hard to try and stay one step ahead of the film because of all the crazy shit that they kind of throw out. Also, the kills are amazing.
They're pretty good.
I mean, I don't know if we want to go into favorite kills so far, but mine definitely involves a window.
Yes.
It's gotta be,
the glass plane.
the glass kill.
Yeah, that one's pretty good.
Which is actually a retread of one of my favorite kills from Bride of Chucky, if you guys remember that one. But it's pretty awesome. Like the practical effect work that they pull off is really fun.
I think actually my favorite is one that it's so impractical at this point. I was kind of scared that we were like, oh, come on, guys, you're not even trying anymore of like figuring out whether Chucky's real or not when they had the one they commit suicide by stuffing a doll's arm down her throat. I was like, yeah, she committed suicide. How? How did she do that?
I call that one death by fisting.
Death by doll fisting. Of course we have Brad Dourif back to voice Chucky as always, and it's fun because Chucky is actually pretty well written in this movie too. He's very funny. Like as far as the jokes go. He's very topical. He mentions Hannibal being canceled, and that was bullshit. And I'm like, when did you get the chance to watch Hannibal?
Honestly, Andy probably watched it with him.
I really dig the regular slasher film that's going on here, and plus the additions to expand and really take the film into a whole new, like, it does feel like this is a chapter, like there is another chapter after this that really keeps going forward with the Chucky story. So yeah, I was just very impressed.
I was just about to say, it's been rumored that there will be another Chucky movie, and it will be Chucky in space.
Yes. We have to follow the best of our forerunners, the Jason X and Leprechauns in space. This must happen with all horror franchises. Yeah, so I don't know. What'd you guys feel about it? I mean, I mentioned how my positive feelings. Was there anything that really drew you guys in, or that you guys noticed? Patience, you want to start with you?
Sure. I like you mentioned with most of the previous movies. I haven't seen all of them. I think I checked out when it was like Andy at the military school. Was that was such thing? I remember they did
3, my friend.
It was that it, and they did a little like shout out to that because in front of the safe where Andy keeps Chucky's head was his like sweater from that military school. So I thought that was kind of cute. But
wow, good on you, props department.
Right? So I really liked how self-aware the movie was. You also mentioned that scene where Chucky's like, I'm a vintage mass-marketed children's toy from the 80s, standing right in front of you holding a very sharp scalpel. And he's just like so frustrated. He's like, oh, I'm going to be right back and I'm going to kill you. And she's like, okay, see you later. Have fun. And
I think that's another line where like he complains about it being a cuckoo's nest. Which is another reference.
There you go. Exactly. It's a very fun, self-aware movie. There are some, like you said, we mentioned 2 of our favorite deaths. Those were 2 of my favorite deaths as well. And I think that the only problem that I really had with the movie was so pedantic. I even hesitate to say it, but for some reason, they've decided to CGI a lot of the blood splatters and the blood puddles even, and I'm just like, why would you CGI that? It looks so bad when you could easily just like pour fake blood and save yourself $3,000. You know what I mean? Like even the blood puddles seemed like really off. But otherwise, Chucky looked great. So that's definitely where the money needed to be, and that's where they spent it. So I other than like a few weird things with Chucky's hands, I thought Chucky looked great. So, yeah, just some CGI weirdness. Otherwise, it was just a great, this movie's actually I would put it solidly in the horror comedy range because it's just so, I don't know, it's not entirely meta, but it's definitely self-aware. And I don't want to spoil it, but if you stick around for our spoiler review, there's definitely some great moments where Chucky's talking to Chucky.
Yeah, there's some self-reflection in there that's going on. So that's what I like about it too, is that all the Child's Play sequels, like a lot of horror sequels from the 80s, are all just the same movie again. Like, it's just repeating. It's like, it's the Ghostbusters 2 and the Friday the 13th movies of just like taking a vacation with the concept. Like, here's a Child's Play movie, but it's in an army base. Here's a Child's Play movie, but it's in something like this. But the Chucky movies tried to go with it by becoming more meta, and becoming a little more ridiculous. And now this one is actually like, okay, we're actually changing up the game in a major way. I do like, what is her name? Nika is played by, oh, damn it. No, I can't.
It's actually Fiona Dourif, who is the daughter of Brad Dourif, funny enough.
Right. Which is, it's just interesting, near the end, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I can kind of see the resemblance from the first film there. Like, it was like, I'm like, oh yeah, I can kind of see it. But yeah, I really enjoy the acting in it as well. is pretty good for a horror sequel of this for us the seventh installment of the film of just like, wow, people are really giving it all for the seventh Chucky film. That's some dedication. I really like the cinematography in this movie too. I'll tell you what, there's some neat shots where they are working with the set of the insane asylum that are really interesting. Like they are going through these first of all, the set is like it's all set up like this weird fucking like insane asylum, like white walls, like the geography of the hallways make the hallways look like they go on kind of like forever.
Yeah, and the nurses' station is for some reason not facing towards the insane inmates' rooms.
Mm-hmm. That was actually kind of a weird thing. Like, how white were those walls and floors? I'm like, I'm sorry, but no insane asylum looks like that. It's too clean.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. And then, of course, they have a whole drawer marked sharps.
Yes.
Which is just like, why didn't they just label it stabbing tools? Like,
get me some stabbing tools.
Like the drawer isn't labeled, scalpels or instruments where in there like just nope sharps. That's where we keep all the sharp shit. But yeah, I like the kills. The CG blood is basically like, yeah, I guess CG blood is just cheaper than practical blood for whatever reason because I see more and more films use it.
It's so weird.
Which how much is a squib? Is it cheap? Like, is it cheap? Is CG blood cheaper? I always thought it wasn't, but it must be. Like, there must be a reason that they keep using it.
Easier to clean up, maybe?
Maybe it's...
I think CGI is way more expensive than practical effects.
I would think too, right? So I'm not sure why they wouldn't just use the practical. But maybe it's also has to do with, like, editing. They can you can also, like, clean up CGI blood easier for like editing purposes if you want to like
it's blood.
Yeah, but this is like if like well you're going for a rated R movie, I don't know if you want to like
if nothing else you'd want to add more blood too. Like let's just throw a little CGI blood in there, fill in cracks. It'll be fine.
Maybe it helps for a shooting schedule too. You only have to do the take the one or two times when you don't have to worry about a practical squib going off in the exact right way.
That could be.
I don't know. I'm fascinated because I'm like there's got to be a reason. Because I know any filmmaker at this point knows that CGI blood looks like shit.
Mm.
They can't be under the delusion that CGI blood looks better. So there must be a reason that they use it even though they know it's shittier. And I just don't know what it is.
Maybe laziness. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they just have a really terrible props person because they did have a couple of practical effects, especially with one of our favorite deaths that we were talking about earlier. That's clearly a well-made practical effect. But then there's like a CGI puddle of blood. It baffles me. I have no idea what they were thinking.
No,
In rant, sorry.
Yeah, so this one is directed by Don Mancini, who was the director of the previous two films as well, Seed of Chucky and Curse of Chucky. Oh my god, these films are so far apart, Travis.
They're like years apart.
Seed of Chucky was in 2004. Jesus Christ, I remember that one. That one had Chucky's kid in it. Because Bride of Chucky ended with them having puppet sex. Yeah, that's right. They had puppet sex. Yeah, they beat Team America to it.
This guy directed these two movies, but he was the writer for all the other ones?
And then the Curse of Chucky was in 2013. We waited a whole fucking, like, almost a whole decade between Chucky movies. And now this, I guess... Now we have to wait another 4 years for the next Chucky film, Travis.
I can wait.
Chucky in space!
Chucky in space!
Perfect.
So yeah, I'm very impressed with this film and how it kind of like, it really turned me around on the Chucky franchise where I'm like, I kind of want to see the next film. I kind of want to see where they go with this. They ended on an interesting shakeup to the status quo of the Child's Play films, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to see where this goes. This is kind of neat. I'm kind of into this. And I don't normally say that about a 7th film in the franchise if it's not Fast and the Furious.
Or Harry Potter.
I was just like, by the end of this film, I was just shocked. I'm like, damn, am I really this into a Child's Play film? This is fantastic. But yeah, otherwise, I don't really want to say too much more without going to the spoiler section. Is there anything else anyone else wanted to mention real quick?
Well, I'll mention that, like, I actually have not seen any of the other Child's Play movies at all.
So this is your first one, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I know of it, so I kind of knew the basic premise. I didn't know all the general rules of, he has to tell someone he's alive and has to possess their body, specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So I really can only judge based off this movie alone. So...
All right. So that must have been really interesting for you on the visceral level of just, this is like the first Child's Play. It would be kind of it would be a weird first one for you, I think.
I mean, this one I don't know if this one's better or worse than the others because it does reference the previous movie a bit. I had to keep asking, like, wait, who's that character? Wait, who's that character?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's one of the only ones that deals so sequel heavy on one of the previous films, Curse of Chucky. Which I just watched previously, and I'll tell you what, Curse of Chucky is nowhere near as good as this.
Yeah.
Curse of Chucky is basically they went back to basics and just did Chucky in a house again. And I'm like, oh man, this is not inventive, and then the Chucky doll looks like shit. Like,
That's actually really good to know because I actually, just like you, Nick, I wanted to go back and watch the previous film just so I would have a little bit more context because that's how great this film was. You're like, oh, I think I should have watched all of the films now. So I'm glad to know that I shouldn't be bothered.
Yeah, I went back because it was now I've watched all of the Child's Play films because I skipped the last one because I'm like, yeah, I don't want to watch these anymore. After Seed of Chucky, where his kid is a transgender doll that kicks him in the face with Matrix style kung fu at the end. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. That happened.
I will take your word on it because I don't care enough to figure that out if you're lying.
That is how that film ended, and I was like, nope. I guess I'm done. I'm done with the Child's Play movies.
Well, I just kind of laughed when Jennifer Tilly showed up because I'm like, wait, where do I know that voice from? Not the face. I don't recognize the face, but I recognize that voice. And when I kind of looked up, like, oh, she's Bonnie from Family Guy. Wow, and I'm not going to ever not see that.
Yeah, I always remember her from that awesome Wachowski movie. Speaking of The Matrix, that awesome Wachowski movie, Bound, if you ever get a chance to see it. It's a great little heist film.
Also, this might be telling, but I'm looking at the IMDb page, and Alex Vincent, the guy who plays Andy, yeah, his profile picture is Chucky. Like, standing over him as a child, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah. He was only 5 when he played that first role, and here he is. That's like his whole life. He is the actual, like, Andy in the film, where his whole life has been dictated by this doll, this inanimate object. For real.
Yeah. Maybe let him keep the head.
I wonder if that was like a real date he was on, and they're just like, oh, so you're the guy that plays in that one movie, and that's it? You Googled me. Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, if I were to have a complaint about the film, because I did enjoy it overall, the film does end in a way that it's like, join us for the next chapter.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, damn it, I really wanted to see what happened after this. Like, you ended on, like, the most interesting note, like, just when the movie was getting super interesting, and I was like, damn. Also, Andy, you think Andy might come back into it as much more of a major player, but it takes him a lot longer to get into the film than you think it would.
And he doesn't really do much.
Yeah, and by the end of it, his contribution is very small to what is happening. And if it does feel like, and he will be more important later in the sequel.
Yes.
And I'm like, damn it, I don't want to wait like 5 years for another goddamn Chucky thing. I want to know what happens now. But yeah, overall, I'm surprising, but I'm gonna have to give this movie probably 4 multiple personality Malcolms out of 5. I think it is odd what they have done here. They've gone balls to the walls. They've kind of went all out for this franchise and where they're stretched out their premise. and they've revitalized this franchise, and they've made what I feel like is what, if not the best, one of the best entries in the series. At least in my opinion. I don't know, Travis, how do you feel about it?
I mean, again, since I can only base this movie on its own merit, it did do some interesting things. I do agree with you that it does have some actually really cool shots in it, which I wouldn't really expect from this kind of slasher film.
Not for a Chucky sequel. I'm like, wow, why are you trying so hard?
Yeah,
it's just we're
already here.
The cinematographer, like, man, give that cinematographer an award, because he's giving it his all on a Chucky sequel. Mm-hmm. He is really putting some effort into making these shots interesting.
And I guess one of my biggest problems is actually the setting, because it's like this mental hospital that's for some reason like staffed by 3 people, and they're just like, they're really terrible at their jobs. Like, all of them are kind of terrible. Like, oh no, it couldn't possibly be, it has to be you murdered him. How? I'm in a straitjacket. Yep, you assaulted that guy.
I'm in a straitjacket and I'm in a wheelchair.
Yeah. How? But no, I totally assaulted that guy. You got me. I am just that crazy. Like, what? It has a few too many of those kind of what moments where I'm just like, okay guys, come on. I know this is supposed to be like just kind of a silly slasher film, but maybe you shouldn't have used this like location then.
Yeah, how dangerous can a slasher be if they are defeated by the mere existence of stairs? It doesn't feel like they could be very effective.
But I did kind of like the chick who was like using the Chucky dolls as a replacement for her like unborn baby, it was born.
God, that got so dark.
It did, and it was kind of interesting to watch because it was like, oh, she's actually getting like a relationship with this doll that is talking to her. I'm like, oh boy, that is some psychosis I don't want to get near.
Like, that's a whole nother movie.
That really is.
Like, that's a whole nother like Stephen King short story that is just like. This is a replacement surrogate doll, but it actually starts to talk to me and fucking tortures me psychologically. I'm like, damn, now that's an interesting premise right there.
Yeah. And I did kind of like the twist, but it kind of ruined the ending a little bit, where I'm like, okay, well, this kind of ruins any tension for anything else. I'm like, oh, I guess Chucky wins every time then, because yeah, unless they can. That's what the whole next movie is going to be, is dealing with this movie's twist. I'm kind of like. It's kind of a cock tease.
See, I find that very exciting because we've never had this. We've always ended the other Chucky movies in that Chucky always loses. He always gets killed at the end of it. He always dies, but we all know that, like, oh, he can so easily come back. In this one, Chucky firmly has the upper hand and is like, oh shit, we might be screwed. Like, it puts it into a different dynamic of like the next film will have to be. Chucky, we have to hunt Chucky this time around. We can't wait for him to do stuff because we have to be proactive and go end his ass.
Yeah. But I feel like it wasn't enough of a motivation for me to be going like, oh, I will definitely see this movie. Then I'm like, oh, that's kind of dumb. I'm good now.
Oh, see, I definitely was like, damn it, you got me for the next one. I really want to see the next one and what they do with it. Did you give it a rating?
Oh, I'll give it a 6 out of 10, honestly. Like, it was fine. It did have good moments, but overall, it's kind of a generic slasher film to me.
Oh, okay. Well, definitely don't go out of your way to see the other previous Child's Play films.
Wasn't planning on it.
This is one of the best ones. So, Patience, what did you feel about it overall?
I sort of have to agree with Travis a little bit about the plot holes. I mean, there's a lot of like logical leaps that you have to make throughout the movie, but I mean, we're
Betrayers.
Yeah, but
you're supposed to be my friends till the end.
We are talking about a 7th film in this series. Like, I mean, honestly, I'm surprised they even made this film, based on Nick's review of the previous one, especially. So I agree. I mean, that there are a lot of plot holes, but I feel like the film is such a fun movie overall that you really just don't care. In some films that bothers you. In some films you're like, oh, no, fuck that, I'm out. But in this film you're like, nah, it's a fun movie. It's still fun. It's still cute and I still like it. Yeah, it's cute, even though it's super gory. I really even though I said I was never going to like another of these damn movies, I liked this movie. So I'm going to give it 8 Tiffany Valentine nail files out of 10.
I did love, like, always with that fucking, like, she's got her priorities, man. Mm-hmm. She's got she's got to keep that coat clean. Yeah, so with that, thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to stick around for the spoiler section, stick around after the musical break. If you want to go out and see the Cult of Chucky yourself before we spoil it for you, totally understand that impulse. But before you go, just make sure you can check out some of our previous, catalog of Netflix and kills on our iTunes channel, the UGO podcast, or if just, check out some of our regular episodes. It's also really fun. Maybe subscribe to us while you're there, and maybe help out the podcast while you're doing that, and give us a 5-star review. We will read whatever goes in that review box on the air, word for word, even if it's a cultish chant in order to transfer my body into, I don't know, another a doll I have. Like, I don't have any good guy dolls, but it would be more like a Ninja Turtles action figure. So that would be more what's around me in my immediate vicinity.
Okay, I would definitely pay to see someone possess you into Isabella.
Mm-hmm. Or we do have a little small Isabella the Derpy Dragon that we can get possessed by, but I don't know. I'd be very top heavy. Her head's so heavy.
She would not be a very good threat if you're looking for a slasher villain.
Also, you can find us on Facebook at Unapologetic Geek Out, or follow us on Twitter at UGO Podcast. Patience, where can the people find you?
As always, you can find me at Deliberations of Doom. Doom. We're on oneofus.net, and we just did a great episode on alien horror, so I highly recommend that. And just for you guys, I will spoil it and let you guys know that our next episodes are going to be on Argento, so definitely look out for that one. It's going to be intense. Trust me. So yeah, Deliberations of Doom on oneofus.net, and you can find me at prof.patience on Twitter, Instagram, and of course Facebook.
Amazing. All right, we will be getting into the spoiler section then. For those of you who want to stick around, we will be back right after this.
Listen up, fool, I'll tell you why. Chucky's bad, that ain't no lie.
Chucky, go away. You're too rough when you play.
Over in the corner now, peekaboo. Honey, honey, ha, ha, I see you.
All right, you ready to finish this off, Patience?
Let's do it.
All right.
Goddamn professional, Nick.
She doesn't pee for nobody.
I'm so professional. I'm wearing an adult diaper right now, so I don't have to take a potty break.
Ew.
Wow, that's a little too much. It's a little too much, Patience.
TMI.
Why are you saying me?
And welcome to the spoiler section of Netflix and Kill. We are spoiling Chucky, the Cult of Chucky.
The best Christmas movie ever.
Oh yeah, so much givings. And what have they given us for this film? Why, they have given us the true sequel. I called it the Aliens of the Chucky franchise, and the reason for that is that they expanded the threat, because the hook of this film is that we find out, like, okay, there's 2 Chucky dolls. Which one is the possessed doll, right?
Even though there shouldn't be any of them possessed because Chucky's still alive.
Right,
we might know that at the time.
Chucky the original Chucky doll is his head is in Andy's safe, so that's where we like, okay, that must be a flashback or a flash forward, so or whatever, and here's the new Chucky doll, and so I'm just convinced. I'm like, okay, it's got to be one or the other ones, and then it becomes slowly revealed through another scene where both of them, it's not that the Chucky is switching places between these 2 dolls, one being the inanimate, one being the possessed one. Mm-hmm. They're both possessed by Chucky.
Yep.
What?
Ruh-roh.
I was like, oh my god, how did that happen? That's
really bad.
How have they? And then I thought to myself, like, how have they never done this before? This is a very
well, it's breaking the rules.
Yeah. So he's found a new voodoo spell on Voodoo is for Dummies online that allows him to put a copy of his soul into anything that can basically walk and has, like, he says it just needs 2 legs and a stabbing arm.
Yes.
But he ends up only using it for Chucky dolls until the end. So I'm not exactly sure how that works.
How did he find the voodoo spell to begin with? I mean, the original Chucky head is in a safe. Like, so, I mean, did he just Google it? I don't know.
I'm assuming there's some time in between the Curse of Chucky, in between that film, like that film's ending, and when he goes to face off with Andy. So I'm assuming that he found it while he possessed Alice's body, because we found out at the end of this one that at the end of the previous film he did possess Alice's body in order to go around and kill a couple, go on a killing spree with the little girl's body.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's important information.
You didn't catch that part?
No, not in this one. Is that from the... Oh, that's right. That's what... Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. Yeah, that was from it's a small line in this one that they mentioned from Curse of Chucky, and like, yeah, it's kind of a downer, because it's like, that's the first time Chucky has won and possessed another human. Mm-hmm. He's always been on that ever since the movies have started. And that's what he's always been trying to do. So in this film, like, yeah, he not only wins like that way, but he wins again, because at the end of it, after of course he knocks out the therapist, whatever his name is, for the second time, where I love his
creepy McEvil dude.
Well, he tries to hypnotize Nika, where we finally figure out that he's been sexually violating Nika during their hypnosis sessions, even before they got to this minimum security facility.
Like, okay, we kind of knew he was gonna die because he's in a Chucky film. I was like, well, you're so bad at your job, I'm not gonna really feel that bad when you die. And then we find out he's molesting his patients. I'm like, okay, now you have to die. And even Chucky's like, wow, this guy's a sick fuck. I'm like, yes, I agree with the doll.
Yeah, even Chucky was like, damn, I don't know if I need to like just kill this guy, or if I need to step up my game, because this guy is way more vile than me. Like he's like, man, I'm actually kind of jealous. But
kind of reminds me in Buffy, where it's like, yeah, the human villains were always more messed up.
Yeah, that was Dr. Foley, played by Michael Thurlt. And yeah, I really like that moment, and plus we see multiple Chuckies around. We get to see 3 of them up and running at once at one point, and they murder the other guard, Nurse Carlos.
Yes, poor Carlos.
Or yeah, the other nurse, and there's like they all start to laugh to each other. I really like this moment with all the Chuckies together, where they're all cracking each other up.
Well, did we mention where the third Chucky doll comes from?
No, we didn't mention that, because there's a third Chucky doll that gets sent, and me and Travis are trying to figure out, well, that we saw Andy have that one, so obviously he sent the doll, even though they try and treat that as a twist later, like, oh, you sent the doll? And I'm like, yeah, we saw that. Like,
I mean, at this time, I guess we could still be wondering if that scene was in the past or present.
At that point, I'm like, okay, that must be in the present.
Yeah, we kind of figured it out by then.
And yeah, I like that sequence of them all kind of like making like wisecracking jokes to each other all over the place. Like, man, did you see that guy's face when I drilled him? Gives that little laugh that I love.
Or when they're deciding who's gonna go. Well, because we have to say Andy does show up.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and also Andy shows up and is like, his whole big plan is like, hey, let me in there. Yeah, we're not letting you in there, man. And he's like, okay, well then commit me. And he's like, well, that's not how that works. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he punches the guard in the face and he gets committed. And I'm like, that's also not how that works.
No.
That's not how that works at all.
How that works.
That's seriously not at all. None of this is how it is.
I mean, unless they were just holding him until the cops could show up.
No, even then it would be, you'd call the cops and you'd maybe restrain him and have him in the lobby. You wouldn't put him in a fucking padded cell.
Yeah, they just wanted to be careful. They had a lot of murders happening.
And then you have to be found guilty a year later when the court system finally decides that you're insane. I mean, there's just, that's whatever.
A lot of steps that we missed there.
Yeah.
Gotham did the same thing, basically.
I think it's funny.
Yeah, Gotham's Gotham.
that creeper, Dr. Foley, oh my gosh. I actually have it in my notes. And I'm like, why is he the most disturbing part of this movie? Because he's like, a rapist, essentially.
No, not essentially. Is a rapist.
And I was just looking at the actor's credits, and he's literally like a Shakespearean actor. Like, all of his other credits are for like very prestigious Shakespearean plays, and then he does Chucky, Cult of Chuckies. So that's great. That's where his career is now. But at one point, he buys these red shoes for a paraplegic.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's a lot going on there, like psychologically, with this guy that I'm like,
it's just really, really weird.
Well, then his next line after he puts the shoes on is, "Why do I always fall for the crazy ones?" I'm like, because you probably rape a bunch of more of your fucking patients, you creepo.
Well,
God.
I'm thinking like there's a whole thing of her being paraplegic and him with the shoes and the feet. And then, like, there's, like, the whole red slipper thing. Like, there's this whole, like, I'm like, oh, I thought he was, like, a Wizard of Oz themed serial rapist. And at some point, I'm like, is there a whole mythos to this dude that we just don't know? Because this is habitual, and there's, like, a ritual to it that is really freaking me out right now.
It was strange. One of my favorite parts, though, is like you guys said, was the three Chuckies talking to each other and making fun of each other. And they're like, behooves? Like, who says behooves? And like, new Chucky has to do the dirty work. It's really quite hilarious.
Well, then they're also trying to decide who's gonna kill Andy.
That's my favorite joke in the whole film.
It's pretty good.
Where he's like, "Hey, no, I should get to kill Andy. I was here first. Hey, man, I had a long day. Look at me. I fucking lost a hand." And then like, "Nah, you got to suck titty today." And like, but then the one that has the terrible haircut because Andy gave him a terrible haircut on purpose. It's like, "Hey, look at my hair." And then the other two go, "Oh shit, man, you win." Like,
you get to kill him.
Absolutely. Sorry, man. You go fuck him up real good. Like,
although, yeah, Andy's plan could have totally failed if that hadn't have happened that way.
Well, I'm assuming he must have known that the bad hair Chucky would come for him because he hides a gun in bad hair Chucky and then sends that doll to the mental facility, which apparently doesn't send things through a metal detector or have any checking screening.
It's that low of security, apparently. Well, I mean, I don't know if his plan was actually, I know this bad hair Chucky will come for me because I gave a bad haircut. I think that was just to differentiate them. So I go, that's the one I need.
Yeah, that's the one with the gun in it. Yeah.
And then that one does go after him. He does get the gun, in which he empties the gun on the one doll that doesn't kill it because we've established guns don't kill Chuckies very good.
No.
Like, they hurt them, don't get me wrong, but they're not a great way to kill Chuckies. And then he curb stomps him to death.
He like American History X's it.
Yeah, which was awesome. Like this. And then I did love Travis was like, "Wait, there's guts in there?" And I had to like, "Oh yeah, I didn't explain this before, but the longer the Chucky dolls are in their doll forms, the more human they become."
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, that's how it's been from the first movie even, but they've been real inconsistent on it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you saw how full of guts he was, but still, bullets to the head don't murder him.
No.
So I'm not sure exactly how it works.
It's magic. It's voodoo.
Also, Nika gets possessed. This is the first time we see Chucky win and get somebody that he possessed real fast. I'm not sure why he took so long to possess her.
Just fucking with her, honestly.
I guess it was just fucking with her, like he does. But yeah, she actually gets and because she's possessed by a spirit, she's no longer a paraplegic. Her legs work.
Yeah.
What?
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going into the logic of he's already possessed inanimate objects that also should be able to move. So whatever.
That's a supernatural power, the ability to make things move.
And then he walks around. Multiple Malcolm has killed one of the nurses. He because he thinks he's Chucky, and then he figures out he's not Chucky, and then he gets a drill to the face, which is pretty awesome.
Back of the head, actually, I think it was.
Yeah,
But semantics.
And then Nika as Chucky gets to laugh along with the actual Chucky, which is a weird, freaky sequence. And yeah, they have he has a final face-off with Andy. Oh yeah, after also curb stomping. There's a lot of curb stomping in this movie. Stomps on the therapist, Dr. Foley's face with the red shoes. And he even goes like, yeah, this one's for Nika.
Because she deserves this.
Yeah, and then he faces off with Andy like, hey, together to the end, friend. And Andy tries to take a shot at him like, oh, I used up all my bullets because I didn't think this through very well. And I do love how her and her body, she does give a great performance of acting like Chucky. Because she hears the orderlies coming and is like, tag, you're it, and then like it closes the door on him.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty fun. And how do you explain that you have a gun and then there's a small doll in there that also has guts inside? Like, how does that get explained away?
And the fact that most of the orderlies are dead.
Yeah.
All three of them.
I'm sure they'll blame it on Andy some crazy how.
I mean, honestly, at that point, I would probably do that too. I walked into that, I'd be like, okay, so it's probably the dude with the mental institute with a gun, right? Yeah, let's go with that.
And then I locked myself into a padded cell. I mean, don't get me wrong, it makes more sense than a girl in a wheelchair did it.
It's true. A girl in a wheelchair possessed by an evil spirit.
And so yes, Chucky ends up winning and getting away in Nika's body and meeting up with Jennifer Tilly in the or Tiffany or whoever she is.
Yeah, whatever.
Out front in this classic car.
And now Chucky's a lesbian.
I did like that. She's like, this is different, and then Jennifer Tilly's like, it works for me. It's like, I was in Bound. I'm into it. I did like that, and as well as in the back seat, we get to see the Bride of Chucky doll as well as also possessed. So I'm guessing that it's either that Jennifer Tilly has turned and the actress is working with them, or she can also possess her soul into other shit. It's pretty weird, and they drive away into the credits, and it's like, until next time. And I'm kind of like, God damn! I wanted to see what do you do against this level of mystical threat? The only thing I can think of is that next film they actually have to find a mystical way to fight Chucky.
Make more sense.
Well, at this point they've exhausted all of the physical ways to fight a doll, fight this doll, and it's like, okay, nothing we've ever tried has worked. We've blown him up, we've burned him to death, we've melted him down. And he always comes back.
Well, they even show in this movie, it's like, oh, I want to prove that one's real. Okay, how do you do that? We're going to burn his fingertips, because Chucky doesn't like pain. And they burn his fingertips. Doesn't do much.
Yeah, I don't understand. Normally Chucky is not that great. He normally does feel pain. I mean, he can resist it, but only to a point a normal human being can resist pain.
I'd be screaming if you started lighting my fingers on fire. Because his hand got melted, which I don't think was there later in the movie, but whatever.
No, that one was there.
Was it?
Yeah, they kept that continuity of the melted hand one.
Okay.
He was also the one that got buried and got fucked up.
Yeah.
So he lost
that. Could be why I didn't notice.
Yeah, so I did like how they made it so that you could differentiate between them as well. Yeah, so kind of a downer ending, but Andy's still alive and still able to get his revenge and retribution.
Once he gets out of the crazy house.
Yeah. Anything else we didn't talk about in the spoiler section?
Well, we didn't fully explain our favorite kill.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So the what was her name? One of the other patients in it. Fuck, I don't remember. But she gets bit by Chucky when she's trying to throw it out. And it's like, holy shit, the doll is alive. And then they find her like, hey, what have you done to yourself? No. Look, I mean, come on. I wouldn't hurt myself. And then they strap her down and give her this, this drug to where she can feel everything, but she can't move.
Right.
And I'm like, what a nightmare drug.
Yes, that's pretty terrifying, actually.
Like, why not just knock her out? Like, why not just...
It's just like, hey, we made sleep paralysis a drug. Why?
So that way Chucky doesn't kill her in her sleep. It's important that she has to be awake.
Yes.
Which is a terrifying sequence, too, because all she can do is look around and have her heart rate go up as Chucky, like, just runs around her.
Just to fuck with her.
And then he shoots a compressed air tank through the top window, which is an interesting place for a window in a mental asylum, but fine. And it shatters into a bunch of glass, and you're thinking like, oh, she'll get cut to ribbons or whatever and like bleed out. Nope. One of the falling glass things cuts her fucking head off and it rolls right towards Chucky. And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, I might be a horrible person, but I laughed.
You're a terrible person.
I laughed so hard at that part.
I laughed out loud, so loud. I was like, oh my god, that is great. Loved it. We already talked about one of the murder via arm suffocation, curb stomps. Yeah, we pretty much cover there's not a huge body count to this movie.
Well, there's not a huge body amount to begin with, again.
But not enough actors to go around.
Yeah. I think my favorite one was when all three of them gang up on the orderly. Was it Carlos, I think was his name. And they're all just stabbing the fuck out of him. Just like all these little hands, just like, it was hilarious.
It was very Gremlins. I did like that one a lot. I'm excited that the Chucky is now back in a human body. His girlfriend Tiffany is out and about in a normal body and in a doll. They have like super magic to go and fuck shit up with. They win.
They win the world, I guess.
Well, not yet. I don't think they can possess more than one human, because I think the rule of him possessing only the one human that he first told about himself is still true. At least I think. I don't know. Because in this film, that would be the old woman that he murdered, actually.
Yeah.
No, wait. Does it work from the fuck. These rules never make sense anyway.
Well, again, that was kind of the point of keeping him alive, so that he wouldn't be able to reincarnate to a new body. Means he couldn't do that, but they've changed the rules.
Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering if are all the Chucky dolls connected? Do they all see what the other ones see?
I don't know on that one.
I was wondering the same thing. Are they all like the Borg or something like that?
We are Locutus of Chucky, prepare to be assimilated. I really did dig this film. I found it very fun. I'm not gonna lie. But Travis is right. I have a penchant for, if you go full stupid in your movie, I'm much more willing to I'll forgive any of the logical fallacies. I'm pretty much into it. Man, is there anything else in the spoiler section we wanted to cover?
I don't think so.
I think that's it for me. I hope that if they keep with the same sort of writing, if Don Mancini keeps up, I look forward to Chucky in space. I think they could do hilarious things. So
friends till the end of the universe, guys.
Right? That'll be like Firefly.
All right. Well, we're going to call it an end on this one, guys, until we are resurrected via voodoo magic into another doll. We are Unapologetic to Geek Out, and we're out.
Just like Jesus. Oh, wait, no, wrong movie.
Give me the power, I beseech you.
Oh, go to hell.